Growing up in South Korea and the US, I was always told by teachers that I could one day get my voice heard by voting or writing to politicians, funneling my voice to representatives more capable and more experienced than me. But what I didn't know was what I could do when this was failing. Where could I turn to? I'm 19 years old now, and today more and more people around the world my age are growing disenchanted and cynical about the systems that allow people who look nothing like us to pull the strings for our futures. We're not just frustrated about rising temperatures and declining ecosystems, we're also frustrated about the constant recycling of outdated political solutions. When I first learned about global assemblies, about a year ago now, I remember Googling them about 100 times because I couldn't believe that a body like this hadn't been created by adults yet. Now, everyday people working with each other and working with evidence to solve the problems that affect them the most. It almost seemed like common sense. Now I know that a global assembly for COP26 is something that we all have to push for together. It's about getting our voices heard, but it's more than that too. It's about getting our collective reason heard. It's what happens when an unlikely and unprecedented group of people are given a seat at the table, and it's recognized that we, even a 19-year-old, has the capacity to learn, to empathize, to change with new information, and produce solutions as ambitious, maybe even more ambitious than politicians. Recently, South Korean kids were asked to draw a picture of the sky. What you'd expect is, the classic blue sky with white clouds and the sun in the corner, but instead they drew gray and yellow skies with pink microparticles. This is just one tiny example out of a sea of devastating cases that show our futures, the future of young people, mutating into something unlivable and unviable. Please don't just watch us draw gray skies. Let us be out there contributing to the collective reason for our futures. And this is what we can do at the Global Assembly for COP26.
خوش آمدید به هی کمپین.
नमस्ते, तपाईलाई हे क्याम्पेनमा स्वागत छ.
नमस्कार, हे में आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत है.
¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos a Hey Campaign.
أهلا وسهلا إلى حملة Hey.
Welcome to the Hey Campaign. Tubanilizaku Hey Campaign. So we are healthy and environmentally friendly youth. And being Hey just means being aware of the issues pertaining to climate, as well as taking part in the solutions to curb them. As we all know, there's a correlation between climate and health, so we just need to know what that correlation is and then look forward to getting the solutions. We are Hey!
Being Hey means you're being mindful of your words, deeds and action for now, then and future. We are Hey!
Means climate change, health and environmental issue that we have a moral responsibility to address. We are Hey!
Being Hey means that I am aware of the direct correlation between climate change and health, especially how it affects the most vulnerable in our societies. We are Hey!
Let's trail hands together for a healthier environment. Yes, youth unite for a better world. We are Hey! Let's trail hands together for a healthier environment. Yes, youth unite for a better world. We are Hey!
Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are across planet Earth. At this time, I want to begin by informing you if you require Spanish translation, please select the interpretation icon to the bottom of your screen. My apologies for the delay as it relates to the start time, but we're officially ready to begin. Distinguished guest panelists, participants from all countries across planet Earth, welcome to our 4th annual Global Youth Network Summit on Sports for Climate Action. This summit is being held by the Ashley Foundation in partnership with UNICEF. I am Ashley Lashley, your host for this historic Global Youth Network Summit on Sports for Climate Action. Friends, according to the latest report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it shows that every region is facing increasing climatic changes, and the changes experienced, for example, from the polar regions to the top of mountains to the bottom of the oceans, will depend on the level of global warming. The Hey campaign is a youth-led campaign on climate change and health and was officially launched in April 2020 by the Ashley Foundation in partnership with UNICEF Eastern Caribbean Office. This campaign aims to bring youth and children from around the world together in their diversity to advocate for shared values, promoting life and dignity rather than economic growth alone. Through We Are Hey, we want to show what we mean by being healthy and environmentally friendly youth and express our wishes and dreams for a better future. Over the years, we have heard that sports is that one unifier that brings people from all different backgrounds and cultures together. But where is the global unity from sports organizations and sporting athletes as it relates to tackling climate change? Climate change is a major threat to the future and success of sports. If we have no planet, then there is no sports, and due to a joint call on sports for climate action, which was created by 2 of our special envoys, Alex Silbers and Lucy Mayer, in 2020, it really propelled us to have this most important forum today. The World Health Organization has said heat stress linked to climate change is likely to cause 38,000 extra deaths a year worldwide by between 2030 and 2050. As it worsens, existing health problems will arise. As athletes perform in these conditions, they will feel chills and have nervous system problems that will impair coordination and decision making. As our world warms, more water being evaporated from our lakes, oceans, and soil, and with more water in our skies, extreme rain events and floods have become more common. When these heavy downpours occur, pitches, arenas, and fields at sporting events are likely to become flooded and unplayable. Now more than ever, we must focus far more attention on strengthening our policy directives and creating multi-sectorial approaches to governance and advocacy to ensure everyone is included in this climate action fight. As millennials and Gen Z, we understand the importance of having non-state actors engage in all social fights, and far more attention and resources must be given to the attainment and realization of all 17 Sustainable Development Goals by having these non-state actors like sports and culture heavily involved. We are the chosen generation, and there's an army of young people rising up to take action, and we want to encourage the entire sports industry and community to rise up and join us. Wherever and whenever conferences, summit meetings, and any similar activities of this nature, whenever they're held, the inclusion of persons with disabilities must be a paramount sustainable right as inscribed in the United Nations Charter on Persons with Disabilities. This is why we, the organizers of this Global Youth Network Summit on Sports for Climate Action, felt that it was absolutely critical that we create an enabling, embracing, and an all-inclusive environment for those persons who are differently able to be engaged in this summit through the Hey campaign. Today's summit is designed to examine all pertinent issues relating to the sustainability of the sporting industry, climate change, and climate action, and will have 5 thematic sessions entitled How Does Climate Change Affect Sports and People's Health? The Sustainability of Sports in a Changing Global Economy, the Integration of Sports in the Global Environmental Economy, Creating an Enabling Sports Environment for Young People Living with Disabilities, Empowering Youth Through Sports, and my favorite, Sustainable Sport in Fashion. During this global summit, we will premiere our video entitled Sports for Climate Action and also launch a global poll on sports for climate action with you report, along with our new hashtag that we're encouraging everyone to participate in, called hashtag Goals for Climate Action, where we are asking you to post a video on your social media platform using the hashtag to tell us what are your goals for climate action and what you have achieved through climate action. I am super excited and so should you. So at this time, I am honored and delighted to introduce to you a fellow Barbadian and immediate past president of the Barbados Olympic Association, Mr. Steve Stoute, to deliver the introductory remarks. Mr. Stoute, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ashley. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to
Mr.
be.
Stoute, we're unable to hear you at this time.
Oh dear.
I can hear him. I can hear him.
I can also hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
okay.
I can.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear.
Can you hear
I
me?
think okay.
I can hear as well.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, once again, let me say thank you very much for including me in this seminar. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to be part of this important discussion. I have been involved in sports administration for coming up now to 60 years and have deemed sport to be one of the more important elements in the social development and indeed the entire development of the world. In Barbados, at the Barbados Olympic Association, we are very conscious of working to support the environment. And as you may know, the International Olympic Committee has as one of its main platforms environmental activities to enhance green sport in all of its national Olympic committees. Here in our Olympic Academy, we have a number of programs based on the environment in sport. And also, we at the Olympic Center have initiated a number of environmental friendly initiatives, such as solar power. Right now, our building is powered by solar. And just across from where I'm sitting, our national gymnasium is also supported by a solar farm. So from my perspective and the Olympic Committee of Barbados' perspective, environmental activities in developing our sport is extremely important. And we continue to work in that regard. Unfortunately, with the advent of COVID, things have become more difficult. Promoting sport has become more difficult, as we saw at the recent Olympic Games in Tokyo. There were no spectators allowed, but those Olympic Games were the most environmentally friendly games in the history of the Olympic movement. So we continue as best we can in Barbados. And when I was president of the Central American and Caribbean Sports Organization, which organizes the Central American and Caribbean Games with 732 sports. Our last games were in Barranquilla, Colombia. Most of our venues were developed with environmental friendly mechanisms. So on that basis, I will stop here and say once again, it is a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this important symposium. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks, Mr. Stoute. At this time, our youth moderators for today will participate in an intergenerational dialogue with Mr. Stoute to allow them to exchange and express their views with him as it relates to the acceleration of climate action within our sporting communities. First up, we have Abigail Johnson. Your question to Mr. Stoute.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Stoute. My
Good morning.
Good morning. So my question to you is not necessarily pertaining to climate, sports and climate change, but it is, do you believe that we're doing enough to foster a good sporting culture in Barbados? And how do you think that we can improve on the shortcomings?
Unfortunately, the answer to that is no. We in Barbados are not a sport cultured people. As I said, for many years, I have worked towards trying to bring sport more into the social dynamic. I have tried to convince respective governments that sport not only plays a key role in improving the health of the country, it can also improve the economic environment through sports tourism. It also improves the social environment to take guys off the block. And again, it promotes the country, it can promote the country internationally. But unfortunately, it seems that our citizens only zero in on two things. One, cricket, and then when the Olympic Games comes around, everyone suddenly zeroes in on the Olympic Games and perhaps disappointment in how our athletes have performed. But unless our schools, our education system, and our schools adopt a sport-friendly or sport as part of the curriculum. Right now, in all of our schools, sport is a pastime. You play sport, you may have a free period to participate in sport, but it's not part of the curriculum. It is not part of how you are marked. It is not part of how your overall performance is judged. And a number of students may want to take a path of going towards sport instead of fully academic. So again, there are a number of ways that we have failed in Barbados and continue to fail in the full promotion of sport and creating a sport culture. An example is, look at our national stadium. At one time, Barbados had the best national stadium in the region. We, in fact, during my tenure as involved in cycling, we were the cycling capital of the Caribbean. Today, our stadium is in disrepair. And the Crop Over Festival was always given priority over sport when it came to the use of the national stadium. So coming up to Crop Over, even if it was in an Olympic year, the stadium was not available to athletes till after Crop Over. And I tried to make this point on a number of occasions, that yes, culture is extremely important, but so is sport. So I could talk for this forever, but the answer to your question is no. We do not have a dynamic sports culture in Barbados.
Mr. Stoute, Renako Bailey would like to interject based upon your remarks. Renako, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. Then my follow-up question, I know you would have meant, I know, sorry, I know Dr. Stoute would have mentioned in terms of how sporting is seen specifically in Barbados. I think then my question would be, how then can we change sport from being, necessary, from being a hobby to something more serious, to more of a serious area of concentration?
Well, the first thing we need to do is convince government of the importance of sport, and respective governments, respective parties have, in my view, talk the talk, but when it comes to sport, but have never really walked the walk. If you look at knapsack and the inter-school sports, that generates tremendous activity, a lot of interest. But after a student leaves school, even though they may have excelled in the inter-school sports system, they're allowed to fall through the cracks. A number of them, a minority, go on to participate maybe in the Carifta Games and beyond that. But there is no real activity, no real structure in place to take a student after NAPSAP, after the inter-school sports, into a more sport-friendly environment. So the first thing we have, in my view, is to convince government to create maybe to set up a school where sport could be the focus. So a student could decide to select sport as an avenue, because they're internationally, if we view internationally, there are activities, there is revenue in becoming a professional sports person, whether it be in tennis, whether it be football, soccer, what have you. There are numerous opportunities out there, and but we are not creating that environment. In the Olympic Committee, we through our lottery provide funding for athletes, but most of their training is basically done overseas. There isn't a lot of specialized coaching here in Barbados. And the reason for that is that there's no major revenue to be generated as being a coach. So I think the first step is from a policy from government to change the educational system. And then, of course, we need our national federations, and these are the bodies that are responsible for the individual sports activities, to operate more professionally. Many of them are run by amateurs, by volunteers, because there, again, is enough money to employ professional people to run the sport. And although our Olympic Academy has worked very hard to train administrators with high-level courses, many of these administrators don't get into the system, because the system within the national federations is a democratic one. And because you are an excellent administrator does not mean that you will be elected to be president or secretary or even treasurer of a national federation. So that too is a primary weakness. We need to strengthen the national federations, and to do this, we need to be able to have enough funds so that they can employ professional individuals to run their organizations.
Thank you, Mr. Stoute. Your next question is coming from Priyanka Lala. Priyanka, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Mr. Stoute, as past president of the Barbados Olympic Association and being one of the
If you could just speak a little louder, because my system is having some problems.
Oh, sorry about that. Mr. Stoute, as a past president of the Barbados Olympic Association and being one of the Caribbean's longest serving Olympic officials, how can we address the bureaucracy and create the change that we want and need to see?
Yeah, well, this again is this is something that I have struggled with for many years. This is one of the reasons why here in Barbados we created an Olympic Academy, an academy primarily aimed at training sports administrators and coaches to enhance the educational sports structure within the country. But again, the National Sports Council of Barbados, which is the government agency responsible for sport, and I had the misfortune to chair the National Sports Council for a number of years, but had great difficulty in convincing a change in policy. If the Sports Council was more proactive in assisting the national sports federations by providing some sort of revenue so that they could employ individuals to run their sport. The Olympic Committee does provide an administration grant to all of our members, but we only deal with Olympic sport. And the National Sports Council has like some 60 federations. We have 32, which are only Olympic sports. So there are a number of other sports that need attention, that need support. So we have to look at a system, or we have to try to develop a system where we have more professionally run national associations. And from there, they develop better trained coaches, so that the coaches that are available to the athletes can take them beyond, the level that we're at right now. We take, for example, the sport of boxing, which is a sport that can take many a youth off the street corners, and Barbados has won a number of medals, but they have absolutely nowhere to train. They train in what I call a cave up under a stand at the National Stadium. To provide better facilities, better indoor facilities, better facilities overall, but also enhance the whole sports structure. Again, the public looks at the Olympic Games every 4 years. Now we participate in the Central American and Caribbean Games, and we have won a number of gold medals, but nobody seems to take cognizance of that. We participate in the Commonwealth Games, the Pan American Games, the Youth Olympics, and a number of, but it's the Olympics that everyone focuses on, which of course is the highest standard of competition in the world. And just to qualify to get to the Olympic Games is a major achievement for a small country. But the negative feedback from media and the negative feedback from the public is also a deterrent to athletes who become frustrated and decide, well, I'm not worrying with this again. But let me say this as well. We in Barbados are not an aggressive people. So our athletes do not demonstrate the aggression of, say, the Jamaicans. The Jamaican athlete is extremely driven. driven by a number of reasons. One is the standard of living that they come from. And two, they want to, their history is such that they want to emulate the previous Jamaican athletic heroes like Usain Bolt and going further back, Arthur Wayne. And that's one of their primary drivers. The facility, the coaching in Jamaica is not that greater than what we have here in Barbados. But the Jamaican athletes work twice as hard or 3 times as hard because of their attitude. They're driven. So there are a number of elements prevailing in Barbados, which, in my view, impedes our overall progress and the overall development of sport.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Thank you, Priyanka.